When you think of Sheikh Mohammed, there's one word that people consistently say, visionary. Sheikh Mohammed equals visionary. Dubai is the future of the city. People get that right away.
Today's guest, the awesome and incredible Maha Abouelenein.
A lot of people think, personal branding is about self-promotion. It's not. It's about idea promotion. It's about leadership. So think about your personal brand in terms of reputation, and you won't second guess whether you need to care about it or not.
In this episode, we dive into a subject matter that drives so many of you mad.
People follow people. They don't really follow companies.
Yeah.
That's why we like to follow CEOs of companies. That's why we're fascinated with Steve Jobs and how did he build the company.
How do I build my personal brand? How I'm so scared about social media. I care about other people think. It's just all too much for me. I'm shy. I'm an introvert. I'm not good at this kind of stuff. Well, all of that is broken down into bite-sized chunks that you can process and understand. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of the podcast. Today's guest, the awesome and incredible Maha Abouelenein. Maha is part of the reason why Gary Vaynerchuk is as famous as he is today. A strategic communication powerhouse and entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience. Maha is the CEO and founder of Digital and Savvy, a leading global communications consulting firm. She's also the author of a highly anticipated book, 7 Rules of Self-Reliance. And in this episode, we dive into a subject matter that drives so many of you mad. How do I build my personal brand? How I'm so scared about social media. I care about other people think. It's just all too much for me. I'm shy. I'm an introvert. I'm not good at this kind of stuff. Well, all of that is broken down into bite-sized chunks that you can process and understand from, I'm telling you, an old friend of mine, but also a guru in this space. So buckle up, get set, let's get ready, get our notepads, and let's go. So let's talk about the megaverse, the internet of people. Shaping the next iteration of the internet, Megaverse is powered by revolutionary blockchain technology built on decentralized community ownership. It offers users, brands, and businesses a seamless, regulated, and transparent opportunity for growth, revenue, and community building. Megaverse is accelerating user adoption and achieving these goals through multiple verticals like Megachain, a high-performance blockchain for tamper-proof transactions, Megafile system for encrypted decentralized storage, and Mega Studio, which democratizes development through collaborative and AI elements. Organizations across industries like Dubai Multi-Commodities Center, Dubai World Trade Center, and Ras Al Khaimah government have already explored the lucrative potential of a Megaverse presence. Megaverse enables users to create a Web3 future for the people where technology serves human purposes. Dive in and discover the Internet of People with Megaverse today. Maha, thank you so much for coming to join us today.
Thank you, Spencer, for having me. So good to see you. I missed you.
It's been a long time that we've been friends, and I've always been interested in your journey and what you've been doing, and you're a bit of an inspiration to me, to be honest. And you're a real hustler. You're kind of like, you're always busy doing something. I never seem to see you just chilling and relaxing. Or unless you're one of those.
I do chill and relax.
What's the team you support?
The Minnesota Timberwolves.
Timberwolves, that's right.
We just won this morning. So I land tomorrow at 3 p.m. and I'm at the game at 7:30. Game 5, NBA Western Conference Finals.
You're a big fan.
I'm a huge sports fan.
And is it just that, or do you like all sports?
I like all sports. I feel like it's a form of escapism. Like I like to go to NFL games and NBA games and tennis matches, and I like sports. I think it's fun. I like keeping score and reading stats and following players. It's a hobby. It's what I do for fun.
And you hang out with all your celebrity friends at the Super Bowl as well.
It's so much fun. I mean, when you follow sports and you get to go to the games and then you get to meet the actual players at parties or private events or whatever, it's so much fun.
So as an Egyptian American or an American Egyptian, what way to say it?
It's actually a profound question that I don't even know the answer to. It's like, am I American Egyptian or am I Egyptian American? So I'm 100% Egyptian. I was born and raised in Minnesota in the U.S. And I lived in the US until I was 27 and then moved to Egypt. And when I was in America, I'm dark skinned. My name is very Egyptian. I don't look like a lot of people in Minnesota that have blonde hair and blue eyes. So when I was in America, everyone thought I was Egyptian. And then when I moved to Egypt, they're like, you look Egyptian and your name is Egyptian, but you don't sound Egyptian. You're so American. Your English is so American. You're not Egyptian. So I don't know the answer to the question.
Do most Egyptians, when they learn English, learn English opposed to American English?
British English. Yeah, everything's spelled with an S instead of a Z. Just everything about British English is much different than American English.
Interesting. I never thought about that. Okay, so you're here on the show today, and I wanted to get you in because we've got a new book coming.
Yes.
Okay, I'm excited to talk about that and learn about that. But you've been someone that I've followed and learned about because I've always had this real dilemma around my own brand.
Yep.
I've always been someone that's been kind of like toying with certain things along the way and never been happy to find my groove. Or when I got into a groove, been kind of knocked off of that groove by someone telling me it shouldn't be this or it shouldn't be that.
Okay.
And I suppose over the years, as the podcast is one example of that, has evolved, I suppose I've become better at what I do, as in become more polished.
Yeah.
But am I a brand? And people say to me, of course you're a brand. But I look at it and I'm like, am I a brand?
Think of your personal brand is your reputation.
Okay.
So everybody is a personal brand. Everybody has a reputation that they need to protect, they need to grow, they need to foster, they need to make sure that they're taking care of it, right? So everybody's a personal brand, whether you have a social media account or not. Your reputation is who you are. It's how you show up in the world. So I want you to be intentional about what your personal brand is about. How do you want people to see you? What are you consistent in doing? What's the story you want people to know about you? That's your personal brand. And a lot of people think, personal branding is about self-promotion. It's not. It's about idea promotion. It's about thought leadership. So think about your personal brand in terms of reputation, and you won't second guess whether you need to care about it or not.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, when you think about personal brands and then you think about corporate brands,
Yeah.
there's these big logos that we see and we're very comfortable with all the time. And I learned over the years as a wealth manager that if I put a product in front of somebody that they could recognize the logo, regardless of how good it was, they were much more comfortable with it.
Yeah, so when you're trying to build your reputation or your personal brand, you need the number one thing that good brands have. You need people to trust you. You need people to have confidence in you, right? So that's what a big brand does. So the difference between corporate brands and personal brands, a lot of people, who have a big company have a reputation, they work on their brand, advertising, marketing, doing good for their employees, multiple things. But on a personal brand standpoint, people follow people. They don't really follow companies.
Yeah.
That's why we like to follow CEOs of companies. That's why we're fascinated with Steve Jobs and how did he build the company, Bob Iger at Disney, other profound founders from everything from Five Guys to Shake Shack to Huda Beauty. We care about the founders and their stories and their value and what they stand for. And it helps us trust them because we know their origin, their struggles, what did they achieve to accomplish to get to that place in the marketplace. And I like to follow people to see what happens behind the scenes. That's why Gary Vee is so popular. He shows his day-to-day life of running a business, multiple organizations, companies, serial entrepreneur, different time zones. And I find the more we spend time on social, which we do spend a lot of time on social, the more we can use it as a tool to learn. So why don't you build your personal brand to help educate people about what you care about and what you're good at?
That's a fair point. Hold that. You haven't shut that door properly. You go out and you vape, shut the door, otherwise you can hear the car beeps.
Good. Good eye.
I could hear it.
Yeah, good ear.
When I go back in time and I think about brands, the first person that was the face of a personal brand for me, I think was Richard Branson.
Yep.
Many years ago. But before that, I don't think I ever associated people with a corporate brand or a logo, whether that was a Coca-Cola or whatever it may be. When did that change? When did we start to get interested in the people behind the businesses?
When the people behind the businesses became interesting in how they communicated with us. Sheikh Mohammed, when you think of His Royal Highness Sheikh Mohammed, you think of Dubai. He's the personal brand of this city. When he went on Instagram as a government leader and he started posting and sharing, he was thinking like a company, like governments, like companies need to share their stories. They need to build trust. They need to build goodwill. They need to be more transparent. They need to share their vision. They need to share their policies. He's got one of the strongest personal brands in the world. He does. And when you think of Sheikh Mohammed, there's one word that people consistently say, visionary. Sheikh Mohammed equals visionary. Dubai is the future of the city. People get that right away. Oprah has a very strong brand. Michelle Obama has a strong, Richard Branson. And we know they transcend borders, they transcend geographies, they transcend ages. There's a 6-year-old who loves Sheikh Mohammed, and there's someone who, our age, we love Sheikh Mohammed. Like, it's how strong his personal brand is.
And we take those people and we hold them on a pedestal, and we want to learn about their journey. And when there's pain, suffering, or when there's challenges, when there's a situation where it requires resilience, we lean into those people more, don't we?
It makes you curious. Like, why is he building the city the way he's building it? What does he have in store? How are they able to do it? What are some of the things that Dubai can build that no one else can do? What's unique to them? And he's a storyteller. He's a storyteller of this brand called Dubai.
When you look at social media influencers, and we'll excuse the ones with the boobs and the bums for right now, and get focused on the ones that are it's not unfair to say more credible, but different. Let's just say different. Do you think that some of them, and this is what people are hoping and praying for, okay? So it's interesting what your answer will be. Do you think some of them got lucky? Or do you think every one of them, there was a clear strategy where they focused on exactly what they thought they needed to do to achieve the outcome they were going for?
No, I think obviously some people were in the right time in the right place, capturing attention, getting eyeballs, growing their followers and their account. But people don't stay unless they're bringing value to that audience. There's a reason they follow them. They're humorous, they're funny, they're sharing parts of their lives, they're bringing me value, they're entertaining me, they're educating me, they're inspiring me. There has to be a purpose. You don't continue to follow someone that's not bringing you value. And that's the same thing for other people. Now, when it comes to social media influencers, and I get this question a lot about personal branding, like, I'm not trying to promote people become social media influencers. What I'm saying when I say invest in your personal brand is think about your business or your company, or if you're an entrepreneur, or your reputation. What is it that you want to share with the world that you are consistent at doing? A personal brand is made of your experience, your personality, and your skills. So why not share those with the world? I'm not talking about being a social media influencer, because a lot of what happens in life happens offline. When you're networking at an event, doing business with people, how you treat other people. So personal brand involves all of that, not just your social media presence, but your in real world kind of presence as well.
When I look at some people and I talk to them about social media, they're like, I don't want to use social media. I don't want to be a brand. It seems like an awful lot of hard work, and I don't want people knowing my business. And there's a real resistance to it. So I'll give, from a business development point of view, I'll give a real-time example. So his name will stay out of it, but he is what I would call an old school salesman.
Yep.
Okay, so he sells something very valuable, but he's very old school about how he does it. So the way we were doing it 25 years ago, which would be either cold calling or getting referrals or going to networking events or creating networking events, that whole kind of like,
out the window.
The stuff that used to happen. Now, he's still doing that now and he's struggling like hell.
Yeah.
And I said to him about 6 months ago, let's have a look at how you can use LinkedIn to help you.
Yeah. LinkedIn is a powerful, powerful tool for people who don't want to dip their toes in social media. So a lot of people think about, if I have to build my brand, I have to share my personal life, my vacation, my kids. You don't have to do that at all. Your personal brand is personal to you. So if you want to sell your business or your product or your service, you should do that. But the reason why he needs to be on social media is that's where his customers are. You need to be where consumer attention is. He's not going to reach his audience on billboards or on television commercials. 90% of the time, people are spending their time on social. So you have to go where the attention is. Then you have to pick the right platform that fits for you. LinkedIn is one of the most profound business tools on social media today. And if you aren't going to do any platforms, I will bet all your money and your horses and everything you have on LinkedIn. You can do a LinkedIn newsletter. You can be a LinkedIn contributor. You can use it to connect with other audiences. I was just there yesterday. It's profound how much it's so good for business development, acquiring customers, finding customers, connecting with customers.
So I've got this resistance though.
Why?
Because I agree with you. I'm on exactly the same page. So I get this resistance. So, okay, fine. So I let's say I do a day's worth of training showing them how to do it. Okay. The step-by-step Spencer guide on how you find clients on LinkedIn. Yeah. Okay. Without a shadow of a doubt, it works a treat for me. And so I'm sure it works for everybody else. So the first resistance is, but I don't want to do videos. No problem. You don't need to do a single video. Okay.
Nope.
I don't want to do audio. No problem. You don't need to do a single audio. Yeah, but I'm not very good at writing. No problem. ChatGPT, yeah. So you can put in what you want. So what I tell them to do is I say go to a website called answerthepublic.com. In answerthepublic.com, you can put into the search, a subject matter. And then it will show you all the questions that are being asked on Google
about that topic. Yep.
Okay. So now you've got 100 questions. Take 10 of those questions.
And start answering them.
Well, yeah. And if you don't want to write, put it into ChatGPT, the question, and get ChatGPT to answer it. And then tailor it yourself a little bit, read it through, make it your own. Okay. Now you've got a post.
Easy.
I'm like,
by the way, even people overthink it. You can even write down something on a piece of paper, take a picture and post that.
Yes.
Take an article that you saw that was interesting, share it and give your take on what your thoughts are, add value on top of it. So curate content. When you go to a museum, you curate a different piece of art. You can curate, find something that somebody wrote and give your hot take on it. You don't necessarily need to be a creator. You can really, it's easier than people think. I think they overthink it. So frankly.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And then the next negative comment comes in, well, I only have 500 connections on LinkedIn. And I'm like, right. So let's think about how you can get more. What are your ways of getting more? Well, I have to add people all the time. I'm like, what else could you do? Okay. How about you took some content that was really shareable content that other people shared? What would happen there? How about you created a poll? How about you started commenting on other people's posts and regularly letting them see that you're involved and engaged in their conversation as well? And then they're like, oh yeah, that seems like a lot of hard work. And I'm like, let's compare that hard work. Let's say you spend an hour
on LinkedIn
telly at night watching Netflix. So instead of that hour, okay, you spend an hour just sat. You don't need anything. Your phone is good enough. Take your phone and just spend that hour on the phone on LinkedIn. Okay, produce 5 posts. Okay, you've only got to do one a day. You don't need to do more than one a day. Just do 5 posts a week, and then go in to start commenting on stuff. Okay, and start creating shit.
So smart.
Yeah. You can then generate lots of opportunities for your business. You could still do your old wellies in the mud stuff if you want. Okay, you want to do your networking and going to God knows how many functions every Tuesday, Thursday night, and you know what Dubai's like.
Yeah, every night there's something.
Someone handed out a business card here, there, and everywhere. Or you want to make your cold calls, you make your cold calls, or you want to get, the fears of getting a referral and getting rejected, whatever it may be, you can still do that. But take an hour a day to do that. And it will take, in my mind, in 90 days, your whole world will change.
100%.
So then he kind of I linked.
What did he say when you told him that?
Well, there was the site. We had the conversation day before yesterday. And now bear in mind, I've done this all 6 months ago and he's done nothing about it. So I've gone into the repeat mode again. There's an inherent fear of the unknown, but it takes me into understanding the psychology of people. Because when you talk about people going on a diet, okay, in 90 days, if you follow the diet plan,
you'll have results. You know that very famous term, trust the process. If I move more and eat less, I'll get results. It takes time.
Absolutely. It's not going to happen overnight. But for me, it's the 90 days. And what happens is with most people, and I believe this was social media too, is the first 4 or 5 days are a slog. Because it's a new thing to do, you're learning it, you're not sure about it, you're fearful of what people's reactions are going to be, blah, blah, blah. And so after 4 or 5 days of doing it, you've got no result. So immediately you go into the give up mode, and I might as well refer back to what I did before, whatever that may be, which I find so sad.
Well, because people overthink it and they're really worried about what other people think. If I post something, they're like, who does she think she is?
Well, let's talk about that for a minute.
Why
do people think? Why do people think that?
Because people like to judge other people. It's easier to point fingers at people and judge other people than to look at yourself. I really find it fascinating that a lot of people don't do stuff because they're worried about the judgment of others. But I'm like, it's your life. That's a terrible way to live. Taking myself as an example, I'm like, okay, I want to create more content on social media. I feel like I've had a lot of experience working for Google and Netflix and Karim and Uber and Weber Shandwick and all my different jobs. I'm like, I probably have something I can share about the communications playbooks of all these different companies that I've worked with. I'm like, okay, but I don't really want to do videos. My hair, I'm fat. I don't want to see myself on camera. Like all of the things, the insecurities that come in. So I'm like, I'm going to start a podcast because I don't have to worry about, at the time I just did audio in the beginning, what I look like. I feel comfortable. I don't mind talking about anything for hours. It's a format I'm comfortable with. So I started with something I felt comfortable with. And I'm like, okay, well now I need to like get a little bit more confident. I was afraid of what people would judge me. Like, who does she think she is? Why is she all of a sudden this communications expert? And then I was like, well, I worked for these companies. This is the work I've done. I have a track record. I started to share a little bit more about my experience working in government, working with corporates, working with individuals. And so then I got more confidence and I kind of turned down the noise of the distractions of other people. And then I started posting about comms and posting about storytelling and posting about media training. And then I felt people were like, oh, that's what she does. Like the first time, then they came back and watched a second video or a third comment or a post that I did. And then I felt like I got confidence that this is what I do. So this is what my page will be about. I'll still share my dog and occasionally vacations or behind the scenes at a big event. But I feel like everyone should just be confident that this is how the world works now. You have to be really good at communications. You have to be really good at social because that's where people are spending their time. If you have a business to sell, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an employee at a company, you also need to have a strong personal brand. Your employers want you to have your own relationships and networks. They want you to be strong at what you do and be a good communicator because you're an ambassador for that company. A lot of people will ask, what do you do? Where do you work? You have friends, you have family. So it behooves you to have a strong personal brand, whether you're an entrepreneur or an employee.
Well, even as an employee, if you've got a strong personal brand, other companies will be looking at it too.
100%.
Next opportunities will come from
100%. And companies that get that and aren't insecure about their employees having their own personal brands will understand that it's good for their reputation to have rock stars that work for them.
And over the years, I mean, how many years I've been doing it, I can't remember, but I remember companies used to say, no, you're not allowed to post anything about the company on social media.
Yeah, but that's changed now.
Yeah, changed. But it used to be like that. So that evolution's taken place and now companies are happy with that.
Yeah. Even companies used to have social media policies about what you can and can't say. They're like, well, we don't want to censor you and tell you what not to do, but we'll give you some guardrails of things you can and cannot say, what we can share behind the scenes. I mean, last year, there was a ton of backlash in the US where a lot of people were getting laid off and they were filming it or doing it live, showing. So the reputations, a lot of these companies, were like, oh, you treated your employees poorly when you're showing them the door. So it's not good for reputation, how you treat people. And a lot of people have no qualms about like posting it, sharing it live, broadcasting it to the world. Everybody has the power with the phone to broadcast a thought, an idea, a video, a photo to the world instantly. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the power is in the hands of anyone with a phone. So use it for good. Use it to do something where you can build your business, build relationships, build up a side hustle. People don't just want to have one job anymore. Like you could have a full-time job, but you have other things that fill your cup. Whether you do yoga or Pilates or photography or hiking or you're a travel blogger, we're multidimensional. We're not just satisfied having a full-time job. We want to have a full-time job plus a hobby. And so we don't be threatened by people having hobbies. Now we just see them because they're on social. Before, people used to have hobbies, but we didn't used to see what they were.
It was interesting because this is a live example. I started this as a hobby. This podcast started as a hobby. I didn't know what I was going to do with it and how I was going to make it work. But now it's the biggest business development tool in any of the companies that I own.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
I can invite almost anyone to come on the show now. They'll come on the show, they'll tell their story, they'll inspire some people. But more importantly, I've got 2 hours of their time.
Yes.
And I bond.
Yes.
And so 2 weeks later, I give them a call and say, hey, can I buy you a coffee? I want to show you what everyone thinks of you. And they're like, of course, come see me. You show them what people think. And then you say, you don't know what I do you? And they're like, no, what do you do?
And
then you tell them.
You tell them. Oh. I was speaking about 2 weeks ago at a conference in Minneapolis, and I was kind of mentoring. I did mentoring, speed round mentoring, and it was a guy who has his own IT company, an IT business. And he does consulting, tech consulting about various problems that people face in IT. Everyone's technology is part of every part of our lives. And he wanted to get more customers, and he wasn't sure how to do the business development. I said, why don't you start a podcast and invite potential clients onto your show, talk to them about their problem, diagnose their problem, give them free consulting during your show. It shows to the world what you do. You'll create a relationship with that client. You'll start to build an audience, and then other clients will want to get on your show because then you'll be promoting them. It's a great way to do storytelling and to connect with audiences.
I look at myself 30 years ago being a business developer, a salesperson, whatever you want to call it. And my life was about knocking on doors, making cold calls, okay, and trying to get in front of people. That was my life, okay? And we had a telephone, as we know, it was connected to the wall. We had our notepad and whatever it was on our desk, the cup of coffee in the corner. And that was life. And it was a slog. In the rain in London, in the city of London, I'd be knocking on these doors. The rain would be pouring against my face. I'd go in and I'd be asking this receptionist who didn't want anything to do with me for a fluent piece of information. And that was business development. And nobody, or 99% of anybody that worked in any business development role that did that liked it. It was the crappy part of the job so that we could get to do the good bit, which was to sit down in front of the prospects and hopefully make a sale.
Yeah.
But that, it went with the territory, so you had to accept it. Now, when I consider the comparison to that 30 years ago, it's like none of that exists.
Ever.
None of that's relevant, We used to go and steal the rubbish bins of our competitors.
To look through their data.
To get the quotes, because they never had shredders in those days. It was word processors. If there was a mistake, they'd scrunch it up, chuck it in the bin. And we used to land big contracts, but that also meant 2 nights a week from 6 till 8 p.m. I was racing around some dodgy parts of London to get this information.
Talk about grinding.
Yeah. But now it's like, I've got to just sit on my sofa, okay, and deploy these tactics. So what stops people not knowing how to do it? Okay. So what are the best ways to learn? What's the playbook? Would you be best going on a week's course and just in immersing yourself in it for a week and be made to learn it and then practice it for that week? Would it be best to watch some videos on YouTube, read a book, go online? What's the best way? Do you think?
All of the above. So I'm a huge proponent of lifelong learning. Like, you have to keep sharpening your saw. You have to learn new things. There's AIs here. Should we be threatened by it? No, we should learn about it. So I learn from multiple sources, and it's not one bucket or the other. So I learn a lot from people. So spending time with people is invaluable. Like, I can learn a lot from osmosis, from traveling with people, from being on business trips with people, from meetings. I'm learning from you, like learning from people. 2, obviously, podcasts are an extraordinary way. It's frictionless. You can be in the airport, in the commute, in the car, driving, at the gym, on the treadmill. It's frictionless. It's easy. You can turn it on and listen to podcasts. Reading books or listening to books, and the internet. Everything's for free. Everything on YouTube is for free. Like, you have access to learn everything and anything anytime you want. And by the way, it's free. It's crazy. Everything we do on social media, you have access to everything, all these experts and for free. So I learn from multiple sources. It's not just from one. And also, you have to be willing to want to learn new things and be curious, right? So instead of being afraid of something like, AI is coming to take our jobs, it's probably going to create a lot of jobs. There's going to be a new title. Someone's going to be a prompt engineer, and that's going to be a title that we see going forward. It's going to create enormous opportunities for us. And I feel like we need to figure out, I don't know enough about it. I'm not educated enough. Tap in, try to learn, get some education, go online. I'm 54. In August, my company will be 20 years old. I have my own strategic communications firm. And I'm 20 years into my company, and I still don't feel like financially like I know what I'm doing. I don't feel sharp enough. So I went to go take a course at the London Business School in October.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
It was finance for non-finance executives. I'm still learning. You can say you've been running your business for 20 years and you're still taking a finance course. I'm like, yep. Because things are changing. I need to understand different parts of the business. I need to understand investment, capital. I always feel like I need to learn, be better at it. So I can go back to school. And I'm not ashamed to go back to school.
Somebody said to me a little while ago, wise old man, because I was questioning university. And I said, what is the point of university? He said, it's a really interesting question because a lot of people are very negative about university nowadays.
Of course.
Are they teaching outdated stuff and all that kind of stuff? He said, university teaches you to learn. He said, that's the number one benefit. The number 2 benefit is the alumni. He said, but the number one is it teaches people
how to learn.
How to learn. And so now you deploy what you're saying here, and it's some people don't know how to learn, so there's a resistance to learning immediately because they haven't been to university. But I notice it with my daughter. She's come from university, and she has a desire to learn. There's a commitment to wanting to evolve, and some people don't. But it's very frustrating for someone like me because all of what you're saying, I absolutely agree with. But I see people where it's so obvious for them to do this,
and they don't do it.
But they don't do it, and it really winds me up. And I'm like, this is going to solve your financial problems.
That's actually the reason I wrote this book. It's called The 7 Rules of Self-Reliance. Like, self-reliance is not about being independent and not needing other people. It's about being resourceful to have those skills. Like having that, there's a whole chapter in here about learning and lifelong learning and unlearning and relearning. Like we always expect people to do things for us, or that you're waiting for that manager who's going to give you that project that's going to make you a rock star. And like, you got to go out and get it. You have to create that value. You have to create that opportunity. And I feel like learning is a thing. I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I can't do it, or I don't want to learn new things. I know what I know. That's it. We're going to live a lot longer than we used to. You got to know stuff. And it's exciting. Like, why wouldn't you want to embrace all that life has to offer and learn what you can? Like, we're going to live a lot longer with the advances in medicine and health and food and wellness and longevity and cold plunges and vitamins, all those things. Now we know more about food and what's good for us and gut health. Whoever knew how important gut health was more important than your brain health? Like, we never talked about that 10 years ago even. So like, we're going to evolve. So like, you have to stay sharp, and learning is a big part of that. So having that sense of curiosity. I'm curious about how that works. I'm curious about how to make that recipe. I'm curious about, can I play a keyboard? I'm curious if I can run a 10K. You have to be curious.
Okay, let's segue into the book.
Let's talk about the book.
I'm really looking forward to it. So it's your second?
It's my first book.
Did you not write a book before?
No, maybe in my mind.
So first of all, I wrote a book and it was very painful. So how was the journey for you?
Okay, that's a really good question. So it took me, I've been wanting to write a book for like 10 years, right? I was like, is it a memoir? Is it a business book? What's my book going to be about? So the process for me was, this is a book that is going to educate you and inspire you. And it does have some of my personal stories in it, but it is a business and leadership book for the most part. And the process was like, I had to figure out, it took me like a year to figure out what's the process of the chapters, what's the book going to be about, because I didn't want to have it be a memoir. I wanted to include my personal story because that gives you the context. It gives you the reason why I have the ideas and the work that I've done and that type of thing. And then once I figured that part out and I talked to a publisher about it, it took me like 2 months to write the book. Like, it just came out and it flowed, and I really knew that this was a story that I wanted to tell. And I think because of the coming AI, because of the market changing very quickly, because of layoffs and the change of the things, I'm like, people need a new playbook on how to operate. And I think teaching them how to be resourceful for themselves, for their employers or their entrepreneurs, their companies, this is what this book is about. So I'm really excited. The book is done. It is coming out in October. It's available for pre-order now in Amazon in the UAE and around the world. And it's a process. Like, writing a book is easy. Selling a book is not easy. And that's what I'm learning. Like, I have to sell every copy myself. I have to text everyone. It would mean the world to me if you bought a copy of my book. I'm talking to companies. I'm trying to sell bulk orders. I'm talking to the bookstores. I'm going on college tour. It's a process. It's a big process.
Are you going to do an audio version?
I'm recording it in July.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay, so that then opens up a whole new audience.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, for a lot of people. Let's talk about the book. Okay, so you've spent 10 years thinking.
Yeah.
And how many years writing? A couple of years?
It took me like 2 months to probably write the book, but it took me like a good year to like simmer through like the structure, the title, like the title of the book, the structure, the chapters. You know, when you do a book proposal, when you send it to a publisher, you have to write the synopsis for each chapter and submit the first full chapter. So that's where the real thinking of the layout of the book came into play.
Okay, so take me through the 5 most important things I can learn from this book.
Number 1 is how to build your personal brand. So what do you need to do to build your personal brand? Whether you want to be minimum status quo or you want to go full out, I give you the playbook on how to build your personal brand and how to think of your reputation as a currency. What's its worth? What's its value? So personal brand, number 1 is personal brand. 2 is how to network. How do I get into all these rooms? How do I get into all these Super Bowl, NBA parties, business conferences, and walk out with every contact? How can you do it? How do you build a network? Your network is there not to serve you. You have to serve your network. So I talk a lot about networking, how to master the DM on LinkedIn or Instagram to get people to reply to you. How do you network if you're an introvert? How do you do that? Like, come together with some thought starters, have a buddy system, have somebody go with you. Like, what are the things you need to do if you're an introvert and you don't want to go talk to strangers and you don't want to ask for a favor or ask for their number? So the first thing is personal brand. The second thing is networking. The third thing is I have a whole chapter on lifelong learning because I feel like, how do you learn? Where do you learn from? What are some of the things that I'm not that curious? Okay, but I do need to learn a few things. How do you do that? You know, especially if you're looking at your second chapter, looking at switching careers. What are some of the gaps you need to fill? What do you need to do? Like if you're going to retire and do something else, or you're switching your jobs. I just came from speaking to a bunch of moms who are now going back into the workforce or switching jobs from corporate to do something they're passionate about. How do they learn new skills that they didn't have before they had their children? So I think that's a big one. And then number 4, which is the number one thing that if I take a step back and look at my 30-some year career, it's how to be a value creator. How do you create value for other people so that you keep them in your circle, that they do business with you, that they make introductions on your behalf, that they bring you business, that they stick with you? Like I've been with Gary for almost 8 years now. Like, how do you create value for other people? What does that actually mean to be a value creator? And how do you do that so that the people stay with you for a long time? And then I think the 5th concept, if I can kind of pull out something big, is just about being a long-term player. That's hard to do. A lot of people, satisfaction, like we don't want to wait 3 seconds for a video to load. Like, right? We want instant gratification. We want to order, deliver. We want this thing to show up at our door. We want transactions. We want short-term gratification. So how do you be a long-term player, and why should you think long-term? And what could that do for your business, for yourself, for your mental health, for your relationships, if you didn't put so much pressure on yourself to do now, and to compare yourself to other people?
Such an important point. It's such an important point, thinking about being a long-term player. But I think that, you know, you and I are the same age. And when we think about that, it's kind of almost normal now, isn't it?
Yeah.
You would think like that. But for younger people, you know, if you were to tell my 24-year-old daughter that if you start a business now, it's going to be worth something in 10 years' time, she'd be like, come again?
Yeah.
10.
10. They don't think long term.
10?
Yep.
10? Well, when I'm old. Well, you'll be 34. You know, that's old, you know. That's a normal response I get. So teaching a young person like that how to think for the long term is probably a really important thing to do.
Yeah, I think if people feel short term, they also feel like, 10 years seems like a long time. So like in your 20s, you have the ability, to take a lot of risks because you're still learning things. So I think in your career, think of when you take a job or an opportunity, or your daughter or anybody else who's an entrepreneur or a student, you either should be learning or earning, right? So I might take a role where I know I'm not going to make that much money, but it's going to give me a tremendous opportunity to learn an industry, a business, about the people I'm working with, to learn the skills I need. If you have an opportunity to learn, that's very valuable. Mm-hmm. Don't only go for the earning part. Like, I need to look at how much they're going to give me. Of course, don't sell yourself short and don't take less than your value. But I'm going to spend this next chapter in my career, in my life, learning so I can get skills, I can acquire knowledge, I can acquire relationships, and then go to a point where like, okay, now I'm ready to cash in on that to go learn something.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because a lot of young people aren't actually worth anything at first to an employer.
Yes.
Okay. They don't have a great value to the employer.
Yes.
So why would the employer pay you with cash?
I love that. So in order to be of value for other people, you need to be valuable. Mm-hmm. So young people need to invest in themselves. They need to acquire knowledge. They need to get skills. They need to be learning as much as they can and be valuable so that when they go to a company, they can bring value to other people. They will never be a value creator for another company or employer unless they have some skills to offer. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I'm not just competing with people in Dubai. I'm competing with the remote talent pool. So I better be good because they don't just need to hire people that live in my city. Now they can hire somebody remotely.
Yeah.
And so the competitive pool has just upped its game. And so you need to make sure that you're thinking about, okay, I got to acquire knowledge. I got to acquire skills. I have to know things. Because if I don't, someone next to me is going to be sitting on YouTube learning it, and then I'm at a disadvantage.
It's interesting when we think about that. The first thing I think about is, let's say the salary is $100,000. If you're worth $10,000, okay, you want to be getting paid $90,000 in education, okay?
So that's a good point.
That's the thing. And let's have the $10,000 in salary, the $90,000 in education, and allow that then that line to slowly move up so that you become worth more in cash and less in education along the way.
True.
So it's kind of like that person started at 22 after university and getting to 30, where they become really valuable because they have loads of work experience, loads of real life experience, loads of client experience. They know how to deal with office politics and dramas and know how to take their creativity and turn it into something productive. That real value there. But then it is really understanding, like you said, there's a whole world now competing for those opportunities, And if you're a company, please understand that employer is going to look for the most economic way of getting that job done.
100%.
Okay, that's an important point. Okay, let's cover the other ones. When we talk about being a lifelong learner, we all learn in different ways.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're going to teach me something, please get a notepad out or a whiteboard and draw me a picture. Because if you draw me a picture, it sticks in my brain.
Yep.
If you just tell me it, it doesn't stay there.
I'm a note taker, so I have to have a notebook that helps my memory retain the information.
Yeah.
Everybody learns differently, right? Some people leave by memorization or by watching something or visual. Like you said, I need to see a picture. I need to write it down. I get nervous when I have team members come into a meeting and they don't have a notebook or a pen and paper. I'm like, how are you going to remember anything that we talked about? Like, it makes me nervous. I'm like, that's just my system. Maybe they retain information in a different way. One of the things I do with my team members is we talk about what are the most productive times you are for you in the day. Some people are morning people and they can do a lot of writing and shouldn't have meetings in the morning because that's when they're really good at producing content or producing information or producing for a client. I have another team member who she's only good in the afternoon. So she does all her meetings in the morning. So you have to have that self-awareness of how do you learn? How do you absorb? When are you the most productive? And it's hard. It's hard to figure that out. And you just have to, by trial, you just have to see what's the rhythm you can work in. Just like some people are night owls, some people are 5 a.m. club, it depends.
Have you got a Remarkable?
Yes. Oh, the notepad?
Yeah.
I have one. I don't use it.
Okay, so
I got one. Someone gifted it to me last year.
So I'm.
Do you have one?
Well, I have one as well, but I haven't. I was a note taker and a notebook person, and in that cupboard there is about 50 notebooks that I don't go back to and look at, which I should. And then the Danielle, my business partner, said, "You're having a Remarkable, and that's it." I'm like, okay, fine. So I got this Remarkable, and I make notes in it. But again, it's like when I make the notes, I'm making the notes to try and remember stuff.
To retain it in your head.
Yeah, more than I am to go back and look at it later. Is that similar to you?
Yeah, same for me.
Okay, so everybody has to find their way of learning and get comfortable with that. Everyone has to understand what the best time is. My friend Iman, she's like, Spence, I'm on fire at midnight every night.
I can't even. I need my
Who are you? She lives in Miami. She's like, no, midnight's the best time for me to be creative. And I'm like,
that's good.
Get me at 7 a.m. and I'm on fire. But yeah, any other time. So this lifelong learning process needs to be something that we take as our responsibility as a professional and as a human being.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about the other ones and go into some detail here. Because when we understand these different lessons, networking's a great example. Networking is probably second to public speaking.
It makes people nervous.
People don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that goes to a networking event and I'm in the corner looking at my phone, dreading having to have a conversation with a stranger. Now, I'm different if you and I go somewhere and you introduce me to Alex over there and we have a chat with Alex and you leave me to chat with Alex. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if I've got to go up to random strangers and say, hi, I'm Spencer, and people watching this who know me will be like, that can't be you. You're so extroverted, I'm terrified in that moment.
It is scary for a lot of people. And I think especially for introverts, and I talk about it a lot in the book, just tips to how to network if you're introverted. So one, go with a buddy system, take somebody with you. So you have somebody to sit with, you have someone to go get some food and come back to. You have a buddy system, that support, that can make a tremendous difference. Second is prepare before you go to the event. Knowing if you have anxiety about meeting people you don't really know, think of a few conversation starters or thought openers of what you want to do so that you don't have to tense up in the moment and think like, okay, what am I going to say? So have a couple of things that you think you want to talk about in advance and prepare yourself so that you don't do it. You don't get stuck in the moment of like wanting to do it. Third is, I think a lot, Spencer, about like when you're networking and you go to an event, it's an environment that's very overwhelming, right? So how do you make an introduction or a connection with someone and then try to take it offline to doing like a quiet coffee shop or go for a walk outside and don't necessarily need to do the networking business there. And I give people a really good tip, which like, let's say I come to an event and you go to an event, you're going to meet a lot of people. You're going to exchange a lot of phone numbers or QR codes and you're going to bump phones and get each other's contacts. Let's say I come to an event and I meet you and we exchange phone numbers. I'll say, Spencer, let's take a selfie. And so we'll take a picture with each other and then I'll text it to you. So when you leave and I leave, I have your phone number, I have your name, but then I have a picture to recall for me who you are, what you like, because I might meet 10 people at that event that day.
Yeah.
And I always like, don't say the number right away. You know, it's a process that a lot of us go through. So just a small little mental note of having that picture, then when they come back and they get home, they look at their phone, they immediately associate who you are. They might look you up, then they see your picture. They can add you on Instagram or LinkedIn. So it's just a nice little trick for people to do for networking.
It's brilliant.
And it works every time. I met Dwayne Wade and I met Mav Carter. They're two people in the NBA world. And we met at a party and an event. And, you know, it was a big event with a lot of people. And I was like, let's take a picture. Let's take a selfie. And I took it and then I texted to them. And then the next day, they're like, oh, Maha, so nice to meet you. Thank you for sending the photo. Like, also it triggers a conversation starter for you to keep, they'll see it the next day, they'll go through it. And then you're like, okay, he's saving my number now. And then he's like locking you in. I'm like, great. So like, it's a trick that works. I feel like networking is a really valuable skill, especially online, because you don't go to a lot of events. Like events are back now post-COVID, but for a long time, you had to network on Zoom. You have to network on LinkedIn or Instagram. Like, how do you send a DM to get the conversation off DM into your email? Get the conversation off DM into a meeting? What do you say? How do you open? Try to be brief. Tell them what your ask is and give your information first. I would never DM you and say, hey, Spencer, I'd like to have a meeting. Can you send me your email? What I do is I offer mine first. So I'm giving you the power to contact me. I'm like, hi, Spencer, I'd love to talk to you about a new show I'm doing. Here's my email. If you have time, can we connect so I can discuss it with you? So I'm asking for their permission. I'm giving them my information first, and I'm being specific about what I'm contacting them for. So there's no vagueness. There's no spammy about it. It's direct to the point and keep it short.
Okay, this is really important. So what I see with networking is a lot of people see networking as prospecting.
Yes.
And I really believe that if you want networking to work for you, as you mentioned earlier, focus on value first that you can bring.
Yep.
If you can bring value to people, and imagine if you go into a group of strangers, okay, and you think, I've got to try and sell them something versus, I wonder if I can help them.
Yes. So your
psychology changes immediately, doesn't it?
100%. So the first thing about a network, it's you put it on its head. Your purpose of your network is for you to serve your network, not your network to serve you, right?
Yeah.
Make what I call deposits in the trust bank. Like, I'm going to do something of value for you. I'm going to connect you to someone. I'm going to introduce you to someone. I'm going to do something that I think you care about. How do I know? I'm going to listen, find out what your value, and then deliver that. So consistently serve your network. Make a deposit in their trust bank. Then you can make a withdrawal, but only after you've made several deposits, right? Your network is not there to serve you. You have to nurture and serve your network. The other thing is what's valuable to your network is the most important thing you need to find out so that you can make those connections. And then when you do a good job of serving your network by asking a very simple question, how can I help? By asking them what they want or what they care about and delivering that, you've already been valuable to them. Then they start to bring you into their network. I feel like a lot of people think networking is to get a job or networking is to get a job for my son or my daughter. That's not what a network is for. It's about relationships, building a relationship with that person so that 5 years, 10 years down the road, you might want something or need something, it comes back to you, they'll recommend you. Having a good reputation, building a relationship with someone, all business is personal, right? For me to recommend you to somebody or you to recommend me to somebody, you have to know me, you have to trust me, you have to have a relationship with me, you have to believe my reputation. And that's how you have a strong network. It's not because you're there to shake them down to prospect them for business development. It's not. But you will get them for business development if you are good intended, you have good intentions, you bring them value, you consistent in how you show up. It's doing the work. It's just like you can't get skinny unless you work out. Like you have to put in the work.
It's interesting. I had one guy approach me a little while ago for the podcast and he said to me, "Hey Spence, I've not spoken before." It was on LinkedIn. He said, "I love your podcast. I've listened to this episode. The one about this episode meant X to me and Y to me." What?
Yeah.
Gave me some
good context. So he was listening.
Good context.
Yeah.
I knew he was listening. And then on the LinkedIn message, he said, "Look, there's a couple of other people I think would be really good for your show too. I don't know them very well, but I do know them. I'd be happy to reach out if you think they'd be of value to you. Let me know. These are their names and their details."
Yes.
And I read through those person, and one of them was really relevant to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, actually, I'd really like to speak to that person. He said, "No problem. Let me see what I can do." He messaged that person. He said, "I've spoken to him. I'm going to do a WhatsApp group and introduce you both to each other.
Wonderful.
Come on the show." Now, did that for nothing.
Yeah, just adding value.
Yeah.
Putting a deposit in your trust bank.
That's right. And then he came back to me sometime later and said, "Look, I've got this product. I don't know how to get it to market. I wonder if I could pick your brains, buy you a coffee, go for a walk with you in the morning or something, just so I can grab 30 minutes of your time." Now, what do you think I responded to that?
Of course.
Hell yes.
Yes.
And not only that, I wanted
to help him. Yeah. Because he delivered value to you first.
Right.
Like when you add value to other people first and you don't go in for the ask, but you show your good intentions, like I'm a fan of the show, I watch it, I listen to it, these are the things I care about. That's how you do good business. Now he's a member of your network now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're on first name terms. And anytime he sends me a voice note or a WhatsApp, "Hey Spence, has got a question for me," immediately I'll open it and read it. "Hey, how you doing? What can I do?"
Yeah. And how can I help?
Funny, isn't it? But it's so simple.
Yeah.
But yet people miss the obvious stuff.
The obvious stuff. Also, like the relationships matter and there's no time limit on those relationships. Let me give you an example.
Yes.
I was working for Google in 2012 or 10 or 11, sometime in my genre in Google. I was speaking at an event in Saudi. And I was on stage with some other people, and it was a news industry kind of conference, and I was speaking about Google's news tools. And I met the gentleman at this conference in Saudi 2012. Let's just say 2012. It was 2012 or 2013. And I didn't talk to him again. We added each other on LinkedIn. Fast forward 2023, he linked in messaged me, and he's like, "Hi, Maha. We met 10 years ago at this conference in Saudi. You were working for Google at the time." He lives in the UK. And they're looking for new board members for the global board of directors for the Associated Press. And I immediately thought of you. And I don't even know where you are in the world, but I've been following what you've been doing since I saw you 10 years ago. Do you mind if I connect you to them? Would you be interested in being interviewed for one of these posts, this position? I'm like, this is a guy that I met 10 years ago. You never know. Like, you never know who you're going to bump into, do business with. Anyways, I went through the interview process. I got it. I'm on the global board of directors of the Associated Press. It's like a huge honor for me. But like, it's a relationship. It was a network. And I just kept in touch with him. And every couple of years, we would like see each other at different events. But it never even dawned on me. Like, you never know who you're going to meet. There's no time limit on a relationship. 3-5 years down the road, you're going to get a customer that you didn't know about. You're going to get a job offer. Someone you worked with as a colleague becomes a head of a company that hires you. Like, you never know.
As you're saying it, it just resonates with me with just last week. I had a message from a guy on Instagram and he said to me, "Hey Spence, how are you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?" He's like, "Great, thanks." He's like, "Do you remember me?" I'm like, no,
I don't.
Sure, but I'm really bad. My memory's really bad, so please forgive me.
Please remind me.
He said, "You and I were at Business Mastery in Rotterdam with Tony Robbins 7 years ago." He said, "We sat next to each other. Do you remember me now?" And I'm like, "I think I do." And I didn't, yeah? I think I do. Anyway, busily scrolling through his information and stuff. He said, "I saw a video the other day of your daughter selling real estate in Dubai. we're in Toronto. We're thinking about moving to Dubai. Could she help me buy a property?
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know. And it does work that way now. With social media, you can find people, you can look up people. I mean, it's just incredible.
How cool is that?
It's really fun. And that's why you need to be good at communications. You need to be good at your social. You need to be reading your DMs. You need to be responding to people that take the time to make a comment for you. Like, this is our currency now with social media. It's where attention is. So you need to be good at it.
So two last things to talk about. Number one, always supporting and championing small businesses that are starting up.
Love.
Okay, which I love. You know, if I've got a friend that's starting a business, I don't care what the business is, whether it be flowers or Botox
support them,
or whatever.
Support them.
Just do something that you can do to support. So one guy, Danny, I know, he's got a business called And Some, which is handsome basically, which is a men's skincare brand.
Love. That's a cool name.
Just launched it, And Some, and he launched a product and he sent me over a package with product stuff and whatnot. And I opened it up and I knew it was from him and he's a really sweet guy. So I made a video of it and I said, guys, look, always support. This guy's just set his business up. I'm going to support him. Okay, let's take him on a journey so that he can meet you and you can meet him. I can't tell you how grateful he was for the fact that I did that. And then yesterday I sent him a message saying, I'm using the products now. I'm going to do a review at the end of the week.
Amazing.
Tell you what I think of the products.
Amazing.
And he said, I can't pay for this. He's like, I can't pay for that. But it makes me feel good wanting to help.
Yeah, help. And that'll make a big difference for his business too. And we're talking about it now. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. And then at the end of the day, you know what? That guy will always sing my praises no matter what. Mm-hmm. So there's always that to bear in mind.
It's about reputation. It's about being a good person. It's about helping others.
Okay. Last bit of expertise. Okay.
Yes.
Give me, or everybody watching and listening, when we come to social media and personal brand, the 3 most important things to consider, when building your social media brand, the non-negotiables that must happen.
Be authentic, so be yourself. That way you'll be able to do it consistently. Like, you shouldn't fake it till you make it. It's your personal brand. So do things that you're capable of doing authentically. Like, are you able to talk on video? No. Are you able to take pictures? Yes. Are you able to write? Like, do something that you feel comfortable doing. So that's the first part of a personal brand, is have to be authentic. Everyone understands when someone's faking it. They don't like transparency. They want to see your business, Spencer, how you do it, your thoughts when you're walking at 4 or 5 in the morning. They want the authentic you. Show them who you are. A lot of people want context of your personal story because that helps them understand your credibility, your expertise. Why is he the person I should listen to? So authenticity is key. Second is consistency, right? You're not going to build a personal brand by showing up once a month or once a week. Try to do something every day. If you can, every couple of days. So being consistent is really, really key. And then I think the third thing for a personal brand is, which a lot of people struggle with and spend some time thinking about it, is what's your why? Like, why are you doing this? What is your message? What is the value you're bringing to other people? And then be consistent and authentic in doing that. And I think once you do that inward work, and I have a free guide people can download on my website of like how to, like, the checklist for your personal brand. It's so important. It's your reputation. And if you don't do it, you can be sure someone's doing it for you. So you should own it. Your name is the only thing you own. Your reputation is the only thing you own. Invest in it, promote it, protect it, build it, grow it. It matters.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Right. Lastly, before we finish about the book, let's get this done. For all of you that are watching this right now, that are listening to this, I'd love you to get a copy of this book. So
please support me.
So what we're going to do, and all of you, please get behind all of this. What we're going to do for Maha, we're going to put the link with everything that we produce on here so that everyone can go and pre-order the book.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask everybody to do that on a condition.
Yes.
Okay. Is once the book comes out, and we've given everybody in our audience a chance to read it, so we'll give them, let's say, 4 weeks once it comes out to read it, you will agree to come back and do a Q&A with all the questions everybody has, from the book and the lessons they've learned so that they can get extra value from you. Is that something you're expecting?
I love that. I'm totally for that. And actually, we should give some books away to your audience as well.
Okay, fine. We can do that too.
We'll do that too.
All right, good. So we get some lucky winners of books too. So everybody, do me a favor, get out there and subscribe to it. There'll be an audio version as well. So it's really important for those of you that struggle to read and listen and want to sit down and do it in the car or do it on the morning walk, or, instead of listening to me ramble on the way to the gym every morning, do it your way. But get your questions down. once you've read the book or listened to the book, and then we'll take those questions. And you know what? I'm going to give some information out here that people probably don't know about. We're just about to do some live episodes in Vox Cinema. Is it Vox? Yeah, in Vox Cinema.
Amazing.
Here in the UAE. So maybe you would like to become...
I want to be one of the live guests.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so then we'll invite the people that have bought the book to come and be a live guest on the show.
I would love
Deal.
that.
Maha, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.